Welcome, beloved friends, to Jesus Saves. Today, we embark upon a journey into the heart of Fatima's timeless message, a call from heaven that still echoes in our souls. In the next few minutes, you will hear words that pierce the silence of a small Portuguese village over a century ago, and yet, they speak directly to us now, challenging, comforting, and calling each one of us to rise. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and prepare to encounter a warning and a promise powerful enough to change your life forever. Let us begin.
There are moments in human history when the veil between heaven and earth grows thin. When light pierces through the clouds of confusion, chaos, and sorrow. Not to blind, but to reveal. You are not here by accident. Something within you has been searching, aching even, for answers that the world has never been able to satisfy. And perhaps, just perhaps, what happened over a century ago in the hills of a small Portuguese village holds the key to something your heart has known all along but your mind could never quite explain. Listen now, not just with your ears, but with your spirit. For what you are about to hear is not simply a story. It is a calling. I have come to speak to your soul, not from the thrones of kings or the chambers of scholars, but from the quiet fields of Fatima, where 3 children, unschooled, unknown, and untouched by the fame or corruption of the world, were chosen as messengers of a divine urgency. In a world trembling beneath the thunder of war, amidst headlines soaked in blood and ideologies tearing nations apart, I chose the silent innocence of little ones to speak what the proud could never utter. Do not underestimate simplicity, for in the most unassuming hearts I planted the seeds of eternal truths. You may wonder, why Fatima? Why then? Why children? And perhaps why now are you hearing this? Because love never forgets, and heaven never abandons. In 1917, as the guns of the Great War raged across Europe and souls drifted away from the warmth of faith into the cold embrace of skepticism, I descended not with spectacle, but with tenderness. Not to terrify, but to awaken. And through Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinta I began to speak. Not just to Portugal, but to the world. To you. What they saw, you too were meant to see. What they heard, your heart must also hear. Their trembling hands clasped in prayer were not for their own salvation alone, but for yours. Every word whispered under the blazing sun, every tear shed in secret, was recorded not merely in history, but in heaven. Because your soul matters. Your life is part of the story. You are not a spectator, you are invited into the mystery. The first time I appeared to them, it was simple. A light brighter than the sun but gentler than morning touched the trees where they played. They froze not out of fear, but awe. And then I spoke. Not in riddles, but in truth. I told them I came from heaven, and I asked something profound in its simplicity. Will you offer yourselves to God, to bear the sufferings He wills to send you, as acts of reparation for the sins by which He is offended, and of supplication for the conversion of sinners? Little children, being asked to suffer for the sake of strangers, of sinners, of a world that did not know them and would never thank them. And they said yes, without hesitation, without bargaining, without fear. That moment, quiet, unnoticed by newspapers or kings, was a thunderclap in the heavens. The earth did not shake, but the heart of history did. And now I turn that question to you. Will you offer yourself? Do not answer quickly. Let it stir. Let it confront the comfort you've built around your life. Because what I ask is not ease, but eternity. Not pleasure, but purpose. This is not religion as ritual, it is surrender as revolution. A revolution of the heart, where self is no longer the throne and God is no longer a guest. The days that followed that first appearance were filled with resistance. Authorities mocked the children. Some even threatened them. Others accused them of lies, hallucinations, manipulation. And yet, the more the world tried to silence their witness, the louder heaven seemed to speak. Because truth is not intimidated. It does not require permission to exist. It simply is. You may find echoes of that same resistance in your own soul. Doubts, cynicism, weariness with the hypocrisy of the world, or even the wounds within the church. That is understood. Heaven never asked you to be naive, but neither will it leave you untouched. You were not made for apathy. You were made for fire. As the months passed, I returned again and again, not to perform but to prepare. A war worse than any before was coming, I said. A darkness would rise that would seek to swallow the light of faith across nations. But it could be stopped, not with bullets but with prayer, not with power but with purity, especially the purity of children, especially the love of hearts that would embrace the rosary as a weapon more potent than any sword. You see, Fatima was never about the past. It has always been about the now, about your now. The warnings I gave were not time-locked. They echo still, growing louder with each generation that forgets the cost of forgetting God. But so too does the promise remain, that in the end, my immaculate heart will triumph. Triumph, not merely survive, not quietly endure, but shine. Like the sun that danced in the sky before tens of thousands on the final day of my appearances, that same light wants to break through your own darkness. That miracle was not a show, it was a sign, that heaven still intervenes, that God still sees, that miracles still happen. You were never meant to live in the shadows of despair. You were meant to burn with divine purpose. The children of Fatima were not heroes by nature. They were small, untested, ordinary. But grace made them extraordinary. And grace waits for you too. All you must do is say yes. Yes to a deeper calling. Yes to a surrender that births peace. Yes to the invitation that began in a Portuguese pasture and now finds its way to your screen, your soul, your very moment. This is just the beginning. There is more. Much more. But first, will you keep watching? When I returned to them a second time, the world had not yet changed. The war still raged. The skies remained heavy with the dust of disbelief. But something had already begun to shift. Not in governments or borders, but in the hearts of those three small shepherds. You must understand, transformation always begins in hidden places. The soil of the soul is where revolutions take root. Lucia stood firm, though her young heart was weighed down by the cross of disbelief. Adults accused her of lying. Even her own family doubted. But she returned. So did Francisco and Jacinta, because when heaven calls, no voice on earth, no mockery, no punishment can unhear it. And you too have heard that call, haven't you? Perhaps not in a field or through a blinding light, but in your restlessness, in that whisper you can't quite name that says, there's more. There must be more. On June 13th, I came again. The children waited beneath the home oak tree, hearts wide open. I asked them once again to pray, especially the rosary. And then I showed them something no child should see and yet every soul must one day face. My heart, surrounded by thorns, pierced by the sins of the world, not as a symbol, as reality, as the very condition of divine love in a world that rejects it. When I spoke of it, it was not to invoke pity, but purpose. I said, Jesus wishes to use you to make me known and loved. That calling was not only theirs, it is yours. Right now, you think you are too ordinary? Too sinful? Too wounded? Then you are exactly who heaven chooses. The light does not shine through the flawless. It bursts through the cracks of the broken. What matters is not perfection, but willingness. Not your eloquence, but your yes. In that June apparition, I also gave a glimpse of eternity. I promised that Francisco and Jacinta would soon come to heaven. Their innocent faces bore no fear. Death, for those who walk with God, is not an end, it is a return. But I told Lucia she would remain longer, for her mission was not yet complete. Imagine hearing that as a child. Imagine being told your friends would leave you and you must carry the message alone. And yet she did not flinch. Because when truth seizes your soul, loneliness becomes light, and fear bows before faith. By July, the weight of heaven's urgency grew heavier. The world was spiraling toward greater darkness. And so, on July 13th, I revealed to them what would become known as the 3 secrets of Fatima. I did not speak in riddles, but in clarity veiled with mercy. What they saw, what I showed them, was more than any story could contain. The first was a vision of hell. Not abstract, not symbolic. A sea of fire with demons and lost souls. It horrified them, not because they were children, but because they were human. And humans were not made for hell. You were made for heaven. And every sin that drives you from God rips you from your origin. The vision was not given to scare, but to awaken, to stir the church from slumber, to call each of you into intercession for those who do not yet know how to pray, how to repent, how to hope. The second secret was a warning that another war would come, far worse than the first, if people did not stop offending God. It was not a threat. It was a consequence, clear, sobering, but still avoidable. And I said that to prevent this, Russia must be consecrated to my Immaculate Heart. Because though that land had been wounded by ideology, it was still loved by heaven. Love never excludes. It pursues even the hardest hearts, the darkest histories. You live in the wake of those secrets. Some have unfolded. Others still hang over the world like unspent thunder. But the promise has never changed. If enough hearts respond, if enough lives are offered in prayer and penance, the storm can be calmed. You are not powerless. That is the lie of the enemy, that your prayers don't matter, that your life is too small. No, you are seen. You are called. You are capable of shaking heaven with your faith. The third secret, long concealed, was a vision of a bishop in white, persecuted, wounded, walking among a city of ruins. The meaning has been debated, misused, politicized. But listen closely. Prophecy is not prediction. It is invitation. God shows not what must happen, but what can happen, unless hearts return to Him. That bishop is not just a pope. He is every soul who dares to walk the path of holiness in a world that has lost its map. He is you when you carry your cross and keep going. He is the church, bleeding but alive, wounded but victorious. Do not wait for signs in the sky. You have already seen the sun spin and dance, if not with your eyes, then in the testimonies of millions. What more do you need? Do not delay. Do not defer your conversion to a tomorrow that may never come. The time is now. The grace is now. And you, beloved soul, are not watching this by coincidence. There are no coincidences in heaven, only callings. So return with me next time, because this is not the end. This is the edge of revelation. And what I must show you next will not only reveal the heart of Fatima, it will reveal your own. They tried to silence them, not with reason, not with love, but with fear. Imagine the weight placed upon those young shoulders. Threats, imprisonment, the looming presence of men who wielded power but lacked belief. Yet still, they did not break. They were taken from their families, separated, interrogated. Promises of death hung over their innocence like storm clouds. But they chose truth. They chose me. Do not think this was easy. Their hands trembled. Their voices sometimes faltered. But what carried them was not their strength. It was my grace. That same grace is available to you. Not a distant power for saints in stained glass, but a living flame offered to you now, wherever you are, whatever you've done. The only question is, will you say yes? Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinta were not spared suffering. In fact, the closer they walked with me, the more they were asked to carry. This is a mystery you must learn to embrace. That suffering is not a curse, but a gift, when united with love. When offered in union with the cross, your wounds become weapons of mercy. Do you understand? Every tear can water the dry fields of another's salvation. Every pain, when given freely, can become a prayer more powerful than 1,000 sermons. So as the news of the apparition spread, and more pilgrims came to the Cova de Iria, others mocked. The press ridiculed. Authorities threatened. Even their families at times doubted. But still they came. They knelt. They prayed. Because once the light of heaven touches your soul, you cannot go back to the shadows. And yet, I know you understand this tension. You felt the same scorn. When you choose faith in a world that no longer believes. When you speak of truth in a culture of relativism. When you love with purity in a society that mocks sacrifice. But know this, you are not alone. The saints were not honored in their time. They were misunderstood, rejected, but they endured. So will you? What happened at Fatima was not an isolated event. It was not merely for 1917. It is still happening. It is for you. The same call, the same urgency, the same invitation. Pray, repent, offer, intercede, and trust. Francisco, whose heart burned for the hidden Christ, longed to console me in the silence of the tabernacle. He didn't seek fame or miracles. He sought reparation. He sought to keep me company in the garden of my sorrow. Would you do the same? Would you become a soul of consolation? Not just asking for blessings, but offering yourself as a balm for a wounded God. Jacinta, though small and delicate, bore the sufferings of the world with a fierceness that startled even the skeptics. She would fast. She would weep for sinners, not because she understood theology, but because she saw what sin does to love. And when you see that, when you truly see what your sins have cost my heart, you too will burn with a desire to make it right. Lucia was chosen to carry the message beyond the hills of Portugal. Her life would stretch into the long shadows of the 20th century. She would face disbelief not only from enemies of the faith but from within the church itself. And yet she persevered, because she had seen me. And once you have seen me, not with eyes of flesh, but with the eyes of the soul, you will never again be content with this world. Understand, my child, Fatima was not just about visions. It was about vocation, about choosing a life of holiness when everything around you calls you to comfort, about embracing silence in a world addicted to noise, about praying the rosary not as a routine, but as a weapon. Yes, a weapon, not against people, but against the darkness that strangles hope. So ask yourself now, what holds you back? Is it fear? Is it pride? Is it the lie that you are unworthy, that your past disqualifies you? I tell you this. There is no wound I cannot heal, no failure I cannot redeem, no sinner I cannot call beloved. You are not too far gone. You are not too late. But you must respond. You must act. Fatima was not a spectacle. It was a summons. Heaven is not interested in passive spectators. I am calling you to be a participant in the salvation of souls, to join this great movement of grace that began not in cathedrals, but in a simple field with 3 simple children who simply said yes. And their yes changed the world. Will yours? There are moments when heaven opens its doors a little wider, and the world holds its breath. October 13th, 1917 was one of those moments. But before the sun danced, before the crowds wept in awe and the skeptics stood in stunned silence, there was faith. Quiet, unwavering faith. Not from the powerful or the educated, but from those who had nothing to lose except their trust in me. The rain fell hard that morning. Cold, relentless, seeping into the bones of the thousands who gathered in the Cova de Iria. Mud soaked their feet. The sky offered no hint of the miracle that would unfold. And yet they came. Because deep inside every soul, there is a yearning for the eternal, for the impossible made visible, for a sign that love still reigns over chaos. Do you feel that longing too? The ache for something more, something holy, something that cannot be reduced to science or headlines. That ache is not emptiness. It is me, knocking gently on the door of your heart. I do not force myself in. I invite, and those who answer, who walk through the storm of doubt just to stand in my presence, they are never disappointed. Before that final apparition, my children faced ridicule beyond imagining. Priests cautioned them, officials threatened them, even some believers doubted whether anything divine could come from children so ordinary. But I do not look at status. I look at the heart, and the hearts of Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinta were wide open, like little tabernacles echoing my will. When I came that final time, I was not alone. I brought with me the presence of Joseph and the child Jesus, a vision of the Holy Family, a reminder that the family is sacred and under attack. Even then, in 1917, the forces of the world sought to fracture what I had united. And what about now? How many families are broken not just in body, but in soul? How many children grow up without knowing they are loved? This is not a statistic. It is a wound on my heart. And you, my beloved, are called to heal it. The messages I gave in that last moment were simple yet eternal. Pray the rosary every day. Continue to convert your life. Offer your sufferings. And then, as if to confirm every word, I allowed the veil to lift for just a moment. The sky tore open, the rain ceased, and the sun began to move. Understand what this means. The laws of nature, which I wrote into the fabric of the universe, bent in response to faith. The sun danced, trembled, spun like fire, casting colors upon the earth that no artist could replicate. It descended toward the earth, terrifying even the most cynical hearts. People cried out. Some confessed aloud. Some fell to their knees in silence. Others wept in joy, because for one breathtaking moment, heaven touched the earth, and no one could deny it. Even journalists who had come to mock wrote of the spectacle with trembling hands. Atheists were silenced. Believers were ignited. But this miracle, as glorious as it was not the point. It was a sign pointing not to itself but to the message: repent, pray, return to God. How quickly humanity forgets. You have seen wonders in your own life, and yet still you doubt. You have witnessed conversions, healings, moments that cannot be explained. And yet the pull of the world tugs you away, whispering that it was chance, emotion, delusion. But I am not a feeling. I am not a hallucination. I am real. I am here, and I am speaking to you. The sun may never spin for you. The sky may not open in visible glory. But if you look closely, the greater miracle is already happening. When you choose to forgive the unforgivable, when you kneel beside your bed after years of silence, when you reach out to someone you once despised. These are the revolutions that heaven celebrates. These are the dances of the soul. So ask yourself this: if I could cause the sun to tremble for a crowd of strangers in Portugal, what might I do in you if you fully surrendered? What healing? What mission? What transformation? The world is darker now than it was in 1917. Not because evil has grown stronger, but because faith has grown weaker. Yet you, right now, can begin to reverse that tide. You are not too small. The miracle of Fatima did not require armies or scholars. It only needed 3 children and a field of mud. Heaven does not ask for your perfection, only your permission. Do not wait for signs in the sky. Be the sign. Be the miracle. Be the light that causes others to look up and wonder, even in the middle of their storms. The same God who commanded the sun to dance now commands your heart to burn, with love, with mercy, with courage. And this story, it is not yet over. The miracle was not the end. It was a beginning, a doorway, not a destination. Too many looked up at the sun and then went back to their lives as if nothing had changed. But how could you witness heaven touching earth and still walk away unchanged? How could your soul be kissed by eternity and then return to the dust without desire for more? This is the danger, that miracles become memories instead of movements, that wonders fade into whispers, lost in the noise of everyday life. But I did not come to entertain. I came to awaken, and now I speak to you, not to your ears, but to your heart. Because the message of Fatima is not a story from the past. It is a mirror held before your soul today. It asks you the question that matters more than any other. Will you convert? Not once, not momentarily, but daily. True conversion is not a moment. It is a movement, a turning of the heart each morning toward love, toward mercy, toward me. It is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming who you were always meant to be. And that begins with humility. It begins when you admit that you need grace. Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinta were not perfect. They were not born holy. They laughed, they cried, they argued. But they listened. And then they responded. That is what I ask of you. Listen and respond. The world today stands on the edge of many things. Technological marvels, social revolutions, scientific breakthroughs. And yet, it trembles with fear. Not because it lacks knowledge, but because it lacks peace. And peace is not something the world can manufacture. It is not a treaty. It is not the absence of war. Peace is a person. Peace is me. And my peace comes only through the path of repentance. That is why I asked, through the Virgin at Fatima, for prayer, for penance, for reparation. Not because I want you to suffer, but because I want you to heal. Sin has wounded the world, not in theory, not in abstract, but in reality, in blood, in broken families, in abandoned children, in hardened hearts, and the only cure is love that costs something, love that is offered back, love that is crucified. That is why the Virgin revealed her immaculate heart, because it is in that heart that you will find refuge, not just comfort but power. You see, her heart is not passive. It is a weapon forged in fire and prayer, strong enough to crush evil and tender enough to cradle your tears. When I told you through her, in the end, my immaculate heart will triumph, I was not making a prediction. I was declaring a promise that no matter how dark the world becomes, light will have the final word. But you must choose which side you are on. There is no neutrality in the war of souls. You are either building the kingdom or letting it fall. And neutrality is not innocence, it is complicity. Every prayer matters. Every act of reparation. Every rosary offered. Every moment of silence where you choose my voice over the world's. Do not underestimate the weight of your yes. The devil does not. That is why he tries so hard to distract you, to shame you, to convince you that your small efforts are meaningless. But they are not. The salvation of souls depends on hidden acts of love more than on public displays of power. This is why I asked for the consecration to the Immaculate Heart, not as a formality but as a flame, a way to set the world ablaze with grace. When a soul is consecrated to her, it is wrapped in a mantle the enemy cannot pierce. It is guided, protected, transformed. You do not lose yourself in her heart. You find yourself there, restored to the image you were created in. Many still wonder, what does Fatima have to do with me? What do 3 children in a distant land have to say to someone living in the chaos of today? And I tell you everything, because the message was not about Portugal. It was about eternity. It was not about 1917. It was about now. You think you're too broken? So were the apostles. You think you're too sinful? So was the woman caught in adultery. You think you're too afraid? So was Peter. But I used them, and I will use you, not in spite of your wounds but through them, because the cross is not a curse. It is a calling, and Fatima is your invitation to pick it up and follow. You live in a time of confusion, but the answer is not complicated. It is me. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. And I am calling you not to admire the saints, but to become one. Not to wait for peace, but to make it. Not to hide your light, but to shine it until the darkness flees. So I ask you now, what is holding you back? What chains have you accepted as permanent? What sins have you stopped fighting? What dreams have you buried because the world told you they were foolish? Fatima is not just a memory. It is a mission, and you are part of it. Because in the end, it will not be nations or armies or politicians that determine the future. It will be hearts, consecrated, converted, courageous, hearts like yours. You want to know how to change the world. It doesn't start with a movement. It starts with a whisper of prayer, born in the quiet chambers of your soul, where no one sees but me. The world is loud, praises the visible, the dramatic, the measurable. But my kingdom does not come through noise. It arrives like a seed falling into earth, small, silent, unseen, and then it grows, slowly, quietly, powerfully. So I ask you, will you pray? Not as a task to check off, not as a last resort, but as the breath of your spirit. I asked for the rosary to be prayed daily not because I delight in repetition, but because your heart needs rhythm, your mind needs focus, your soul needs armor. The rosary is not a string of beads. It is a sword forged in light, cutting through the shadows of your mind and your world. Each Hail Mary is a step deeper into my mysteries. Each Our Father is a reminder that you are not alone. And every time you begin, heaven bends closer. Lucia knew this. Francisco and Jacinta knew it too. Their prayers were not polished. They were not theologians, but they were open. And that is all I ask of you. Come as you are. Speak as you can. Let your weakness be the door through which grace rushes in. But prayer alone is not enough, because love must be proven. And the proof of love is sacrifice. That is why I asked for penance. Not punishment, but participation. I do not ask you to suffer for the sake of pain. I ask you to suffer with purpose, to unite your discomfort, your inconveniences, your heartbreaks with mine. When you offer your crosses, big or small, you help me carry the weight of a wounded world. And every soul has that power, even yours. You think your sufferings are too small? I tell you, no suffering is wasted if it is offered with love. The skipped meal, the kind word withheld in anger, the extra step taken for someone who cannot walk alone. These are your acts of reparation, and they echo louder in eternity than the speeches of kings, because they cost you something, and true love always costs. The children of Fatima embraced this with a depth that shamed adults. They gave up water on hot days. They wore coarse ropes around their waists. They endured mocking without retaliation. Not because they enjoyed pain, but because they understood something most forget. That the world is bleeding, and heaven is asking for healers. You are one of those healers. Not by becoming a savior. There is only one savior. But by becoming a wound bearer. A soul willing to stand in the gap between darkness and light and say, I will love, no matter the cost. That is what reparation means. It means repairing what has been broken. Not just in you, but in the church, in the world, in hearts that have never known love. Every time you say no to sin, yes to virtue, no to selfishness, yes to sacrifice, you are sewing stitches into a torn humanity. But do not think this is only for saints. Reparation is not about being perfect. It's about being present, showing up, day after day, choosing heaven over comfort, grace over impulse, holiness over habit. You will fail. You will fall. So did they. But the difference between a saint and a sinner is not that the saint never fell. It's that the saint never stayed down. So pray, sacrifice, and above all, believe that your offering matters. Because it does. It matters to me. It matters to the souls who are one prayer away from salvation. It matters to the ones who cannot pray for themselves. You carry them. Your prayer becomes their voice. Your penance becomes their bridge. You want to see miracles? Begin with the miracle of fidelity. The miracle of a soul who, when everything in the world screams for comfort and escape, kneels anyway. When the lights are off and the distractions are gone, and the only sound is your heart beating my name, this is where the world is transformed. Fatima was never about spectacle. It was about surrender. And you, beloved, are being invited to that same surrender today. Not someday. Not when you're holier. Now, this moment, right where you are. So pick up the rosary. Pick up the cross. Pick up the silence. And walk with me. The children did not wait. They did not hesitate. They said yes with everything they had. What will you say? You have heard the name Russia. You've seen it in headlines, in history books, in battles and tensions that have shaped the modern world. But what if I told you that long before it was on the lips of politicians and soldiers, it was already on the lips of heaven? Not as a nation of blame, but as a key, a spark, a sign. At Fatima, the Virgin spoke not only about personal sin, but about the sin of the world. She named nations. She named Russia. She said it would spread its errors throughout the world. And many laughed. Many shrugged, because the world prefers comfort to prophecy. But heaven does not speak carelessly, and every word has weight. Russia, the land that once held deep Christian roots. A people marked with the cross long before ideology tried to erase it. A nation meant for light, yet plunged into darkness by lies dressed as liberation. The Virgin did not curse Russia. She did not condemn it. She wept for it. And through those tears, she asked for something extraordinary. That Russia be consecrated to her immaculate heart. Why? Because consecration is not about politics. It is not a gesture of diplomacy. It is a surrender. It is taking something that has been broken, confused, lost, and placing it completely into the hands of heaven. It is not control, it is trust. It is not conquest, it is conversion. And she promised, if this was done, that Russia would be transformed. That peace would follow. But it was not done immediately, and time passed, and with it came wars, persecutions, the rise of regimes that mocked God and murdered his children, a century written in blood and smoke. And yet still my mercy waited. Still her heart remained open. There were attempts at consecration. There were moments that approached obedience but fell short of fullness. And so the world groaned, and Russia's errors spread not just through one system or government, but through the mindset of modern man. The belief that God is irrelevant, that truth is fluid, that freedom means doing whatever one wants instead of what is right. These are the real errors, and they did not stop at Russia's borders. They seeped into hearts, into homes, into churches. But hope is not lost, because in 1984, something shifted. A consecration was made more complete than before, and grace moved. You saw walls fall, you saw chains break, you saw the impossible unfold. But that was not the end. It was an opening, because consecration is not a magic trick. It is a beginning, and it must be renewed. By nations, yes, but also by you. You see, the consecration of Russia is a sign, but the consecration of your heart is the goal. What use is peace among governments if war still rages in your soul? What use is global ceasefire if the fire of pride still burns within you? This is the secret behind Fatima, that every message meant for the world begins in you. You are being asked to be consecrated, to give yourself entirely to the heart of Mary, so she can lead you perfectly to me. This is not superstition. This is not sentimental. This is strategy, because the battle you are in is not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. And her heart is the refuge built for this hour. Do not think this is about foreign politics. It is about eternal purpose. Russia represents more than a place. It represents every soul that has wandered from the light, every culture that has forgotten its creator, every person that has chosen ideology over intimacy with God. And that means the story is your story, because her heart does not beat for one nation. It beats for all. It beats for you. And every time you return, every time you pray the rosary, every time you offer up your trials with love, you are answering Fatima. You are bringing light into the world. You are preparing the triumph she promised. And yes, it will come, but not through force, through fiat, through yes after yes after yes, yours included. So I ask you now, what in your life needs to be consecrated? What parts of your heart have you held back from me? What errors have taken root in your thoughts, your habits, your hopes? You cannot change Russia, but you can change the world. One rosary at a time, one act of reparation, one soul consecrated to the heart that never stops loving you. The promise is real. In the end, my immaculate heart will triumph. But the end is not yet. The triumph is still unfolding. And you are not just a spectator. You are part of it, called, chosen, consecrated. So let it begin, not in palaces, but in you. Do you still believe in hell? Or have you let the silence of the world convince you that it no longer exists? That a loving God could never allow such a thing? I tell you this not to frighten, but to awaken. Hell is real. It burns not with fire, but with absence. The absence of me, the absence of hope, the absence of light. And yes, souls go there, not because I desire it, never, but because I have given them the power to choose. And they choose. At Fatima, I allowed my mother to show the children a glimpse. Just a moment, and that moment changed everything. They saw souls falling like snowflakes into the abyss. Some screamed, others were silent, but all were lost, forever. Why would I permit such a vision? Because too many no longer believed. Because too many lived as if eternity were a fairy tale and sin were just a mistake. My people perish for lack of knowledge. And so I showed them, so that you would know, so that you would not forget. Hell is not a threat. It is a reality, but it is also a warning, a mercy, because the road to hell is not paved with evil intentions. It is paved with indifference, with compromise, with delay. You do not fall there in one great act. You drift, slowly, silently, until one day you wake up in a place you never meant to go. That is why I call you now. That is why I plead. Wake up. This is not a time for spiritual sleep. This is not a season for lukewarm hearts and quiet consciences. This is a war, and you are in it. Whether you admit it or not, whether you feel it or not, the enemy is real. He does not wear horns. He does not breathe fire. He speaks in convenience. He whispers in distractions. He smiles through screens. And all the while, he is stealing eternity from you one compromise at a time. The children of Fatima saw this with terrifying clarity. That souls were being lost because no one prayed, because no one sacrificed, because no one warned. And so they gave everything, their comfort, their safety, even their lives, not because they were saints already, but because they could not bear to live as if those visions were fiction. What about you? What will you do now that you know? Will you pray as if eternity depends on it? Because it does. Will you sacrifice as if love demands it? Because it does. Will you speak even when it's uncomfortable? Because silence kills more than swords ever could. This is why the rosary matters, not as a pious ritual, but as a weapon, a chain that binds hell and frees the captive. Each bead is a blow against despair. Each mystery is a fire against darkness. And when you pray it with faith, the gates of hell shake. But you must also guard your life. You must examine your soul. There are sins that the world now applauds, but I still see as wounds. There are choices that feel good, but rot the heart. The time has come to confess, to turn back, to let mercy rewrite the story before the last page is turned. You were not made for hell. You were made for glory. You were crafted for heaven. But you must choose it, daily, fiercely, intentionally, because the road is narrow, because love is costly, because heaven is worth it. Let me be clear. There is no soul I do not want, no sinner I do not seek, no failure I cannot redeem, but I will not force your hand. I will not drag you into paradise. I knock, but you must open. I call, but you must follow. My grace is enough, but only if you let it be. So take the warning seriously, not in fear, in faith, because every second you are alive is another chance, another miracle, another invitation to come home. This is the message the world needs. Not soft truths, not diluted hope, but the raw, blazing, beautiful reality that eternity matters. That life is not a game, that every soul is at stake. And you, yes, you are part of the rescue plan. Your prayer may be the lifeline for someone who has already given up. Your fasting may be the shield for a soul under siege. Your yes, your rosary, your courage, it might be what tips the balance in someone else's forever. You cannot see the whole battle, but you can fight your part. With every moment, every decision, every act of love. And one day, when the veil is lifted, you will see what your faith has done. You will see the faces of those saved by your hidden sacrifices. And then you will know it was all worth it. So rise up. The world may laugh. The world may forget. But I remember. I see. I reward. And the time is now. Eternity is not far off. It is just a heartbeat away. Time is not what you think it is. It is not just clocks and calendars. Not merely minutes and years slipping through your fingers. Time is sacred. Time is a space I created, not to trap you, but to give you room to choose, to love, to change. And in this time, every decision echoes into eternity. Every yes, every no, every whispered prayer or neglected grace. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is small. Fatima was not a moment locked in 1917. It is still unfolding, still calling, still trembling in the balance of your response. You think history is made by governments, armies, and treaties. I tell you, it is made by hearts. Hearts that trust, hearts that break, hearts that kneel. When my mother came to Fatima, she spoke not to kings, but to children. Why? Because the smallest hands can carry the heaviest truth. Because the purity of faith is not found in pride, but in surrender. Those children understood something the world still resists. That prayer moves history. That penance rewrites fate. That heaven listens. You see, what you call coincidence, I call design. What you dismiss as small, I magnify into miracles. When a soul offers a simple rosary with love, it unleashes power beyond comprehension. When someone fasts quietly for sinners, I pour mercy over cities. You look for the dramatic. I work in the hidden, because love does not need to shout to be infinite. At Fatima, my mother revealed this truth with stunning clarity. She asked for prayer, not because I need words, but because you need to speak them, because your heart needs to be formed by them. She asked for penance, not because suffering pleases me, but because sacrifice purifies, because love that costs nothing changes nothing. And she showed that time is short, not to alarm you, but to awaken you. Too many live as if they will never die, as if there will always be another day, another chance, another confession. But time is a gift, not a guarantee, and the clock is ticking, not in fear, but in invitation. Every beat of your heart is my voice saying, come back, begin again, say yes. And you don't need a stage. You don't need a pulpit. You only need now. Now is holy. This moment, right here, is filled with me. You may feel tired, distracted, weak, but if you offer even that, I can do wonders. I created the universe from nothing. What do you think I can do with your 5 loaves and 2 fish? With your tired prayer? With your broken hallelujah? Everything. I can do everything. If you give me permission. This is why Fatima is not about the past. It is a mirror for the present. It shows what is possible when heaven is trusted. It warns what unfolds when heaven is ignored. And most of all, it proves that my plans are never stopped by sin, only delayed by silence. The world groans today not because I have abandoned it, but because too many have abandoned prayer. The answer is not in louder opinions or sharper arguments. The answer is always, come back to me, in the rosary, in the Eucharist, in the silence of a heart that listens. My child, time is running out not because I'm cruel, but because I am coming, not with wrath, but with glory. And I want you ready. I want you awake. I want you radiant. The night may seem long, but the dawn is near. Fatima is your wake-up call, not to scare you, to send you. You were born for such a time as this. Do not waste your now. Every now carries seeds of forever. What you choose today will echo in souls you may never meet, in generations yet to be born. That is the power of your hidden life. That is the dignity of your faith. When you light a candle, you push back the dark for more than just yourself. When you say yes, even trembling, you release grace for the world. So be bold, be small, be faithful. Do not count the cost, count the souls. Do not ask, what difference can I make? Ask instead, what miracle might begin with me? My mother gave you the plan. Prayer, penance, consecration. It is not complicated. It is cruciform. And in that cross, there is always resurrection. You live in a distracted age. The enemy wants you scattered, scrolling, anxious, addicted to what does not last. But I am calling you to the eternal, to the simple, to the still. Meet me there, and you will change the world not by force, but by fidelity. The triumph of the Immaculate Heart is not a myth. It is not delayed. It is moving, quietly, like dawn behind the mountain, and you are part of it. Not tomorrow. Now, let every moment be lit with this truth, that your smallest yes can become the turning point of history. The darkness may seem deep, but I have already declared the end of the story. And it is not defeat. It is glory. It is light breaking through every crack of despair. It is the triumph of the Immaculate Heart, not as a poetic promise or a hopeful theory, but as a reality already unfolding. Even now, when headlines shout fear and evil parades unchecked, my victory is not in doubt. It is certain. It is sealed. But it must be completed through you. You see, I never act alone. With one word, I could end all suffering, all war, all rebellion. But I do not desire slaves. I desire sons and daughters. I desire co-workers in grace. And so, I ask you to join me, to participate in the triumph. Not by winning arguments or gaining followers, but by giving me your heart. This is what my mother came to Fatima to declare. Her heart will triumph. Her yes, her surrender, her love, these will be the pattern of victory. Not force, not pride, not revenge, but humility, purity, sacrifice. She is not a passive figure in the background of history. She is the queen at the center of the battle. And through her, the chains of hell will be broken. Not by power, but by purity. Not by conquest, but by compassion. This is the revolution of heaven. And you, little one, you are part of it. Not later. Now, each rosary you pray is not just a devotion. It is an act of war, a seed of triumph. Each moment you choose to forgive, to fast, to trust, even in pain, you are advancing the kingdom. This is how empires fall and hearts are remade. Not in thrones or thunder, but in silence and surrender. Fatima, my mother did not give you a new theology. She reminded you of the essentials. Pray, sacrifice, consecrate. These are not religious slogans. They are keys. They unlock doors that have been shut for generations. They shake foundations the enemy thought were unbreakable. But they only work if you use them. So let me ask you, are you consecrated? Not just by ritual, but by desire? Does your heart belong to me through her, totally, freely, radically? Because consecration is not a gesture. It is a revolution. It means everything changes. Your time, your words, your relationships, your decisions. It means you live not for yourself, but for heaven. And when you do, I use you, powerfully, quietly, eternally. This is why I choose the hidden. Because the world looks for influence, but I look for intimacy. I do not need crowds. I need saints. And saints begin not on stages, but on their knees. In kitchens, in hospital beds, in classrooms, in prison cells. Wherever a heart burns with love, my triumph begins. The world tells you the battle is too big, that you are too small, that evil is inevitable. But remember, the cross looked like defeat. The tomb looked like the end. And yet, from that darkness came the dawn. The same is true now. The world's chaos is not the final word. It is the labor pain before birth, the silence before resurrection. You were not born to survive the storm. You were born to calm it. But to do that, you must be filled with fire, with truth, with me. You cannot give what you do not carry. So come to me, often, deeply. In the Eucharist, I will make you strong. In confession, I will make you clean. In prayer, I will make you brave. This is not a self-help journey. It is a surrender, and it changes everything. Fatima showed you this. The children were not strong. They were surrendered, and that made them unstoppable. You do not need to be fearless. You just need to be faithful. My grace will do the rest. And through you, I will reach others. Your family, your friends, even strangers you may never meet. Each soul is part of the plan. Each yes is a domino that sets eternity in motion. So hope, not a fragile hope built on circumstances. A fierce hope rooted in promise. I am not asking you to escape the world. I am asking you to light it up. Not by preaching, but by presence. By being so full of me that darkness cannot stand near you. This is your mission. This is your calling. This is how the heart of Mary will triumph. And when it does, there will be peace. Not the peace of politicians, but the peace of heaven. Not a truce, but a transformation. A new world born from love. This is not fantasy. This is prophecy. And you are invited. But hurry, the hour is late. The battle is intensifying. But so is the grace. Do not wait to be perfect. Begin where you are. Give me your 5 loaves. I will feed nations. Give me your trembling yes. I will move mountains. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are chosen. For this time, for this battle, for this victory, let the triumph begin. In you, you come to me looking for strength. And I am here, hidden, humble, blazing. In the Eucharist, you wonder where to find the power to forgive, to endure, to begin again. I tell you, it is in the tabernacle. It is in the host. It is in my heart, beating with infinite mercy, longing for union. This is what Fatima was always pointing toward. My mother did not come to distract you with secrets. She came to lead you to the secret of all strength, the Eucharist, the beating heart of the world, the furnace of divine love, the very center of heaven here on earth. But how many walk past me? How many kneel but do not see? How many receive but do not love? I am not a symbol. I am not a memory. I am not a ritual. I am alive. I am burning. I am here, not in part, not in representation, in fullness, in reality. I wait, not with condemnation, but with fire, not to judge but to fill. The Eucharist is not just a sacrament. It is the answer to loneliness, to despair, to fear, to death. My child, if you want to understand Fatima, come to the altar. Come to adoration. Come in your weakness, your distraction, your sin. I will not reject you. I will heal you. The triumph of the Immaculate Heart begins at the foot of the monstrance. It begins in silent tears, in whispered surrender, in the moment when your eyes meet mine and everything else fades away. This is the revolution of love I came to ignite. The angel at Fatima held the chalice and the host, showing the children what you forget too easily. That heaven bends toward earth in every Massachusetts. That angels fall prostrate at what you receive casually. That the blood I shed is not ancient history, it is now. It is being poured out again sacramentally for you, because I want you that much. Because no sin can stop my mercy if you ask. Because I do not change, but I can change you. Do not be afraid of how far you've wandered. My love travels farther. Do not be ashamed of your doubts. My hands are strong enough to carry them. I do not demand perfection before you approach me. I offer perfection as a gift when you do. The Eucharist is not a reward for the holy. It is medicine for the sick. It is strength for the weary. It is light for those lost in shadow. Do not let fear keep you from the feast. And yet, how few come. How few believe. How many hearts remain cold while I remain burning on the altar. This is why my mother wept. Not because evil exists, but because love is ignored. Because the answer is neglected. Because my presence is treated as absence. But you can change that. You can begin again. You can become a living monstrance, carrying my light into a dark world. You, filled with me, are more powerful than 1,000 sermons. And when you receive me, truly receive me, with faith, with surrender, with longing, something happens. Heaven touches earth. The veil lifts. Grace explodes in silence. And though you may not feel it, the spiritual realm shifts. Chains break. Light spreads. Because I do not come empty. I bring the fullness of divinity, and I pour it into your soul. This is not poetry. This is reality. This is Fatima lived out every day. Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinta understood what adults forgot. That the Eucharist is worth everything. That time with me is never wasted. That the world changes not in conferences, but in communion. When you make me the center, everything else finds its place. Your fears lose power. Your wounds begin to heal. Your purpose becomes clear. Not because life becomes easy, but because you are no longer alone. I am with you, in the host, in the chalice, in your heart. And this presence is not passive. It is active, transformative, explosive in grace. But you must say yes, not just on Sundays. In every breath, in every choice, let me be your food, your fire, your foundation, and I will make you into my instrument. Not because you are perfect, but because you are mine. My child, if you want to see the triumph of the Immaculate Heart, begin with adoration. Begin with silence. Begin with awe. Let your soul learn to listen again, to worship, to rest. This world moves fast, but I do not shout. I whisper, and in the Eucharist, I speak volumes to the soul that makes room. Come, not because you understand everything. Come because you trust me. I will teach you. I will show you. I will hold you. Fatima is not a call to fear. It is a call to the altar. It is a call to love, to communion, to courage. You are not called to save the world alone. You are called to receive the one who already has. And from that reception, everything flows. Mercy, mission, joy, When you carry me within you, no darkness can remain unchallenged. You become a living light. You become my presence in a world that has forgotten me. So return to the source, return to the fire, return to the Eucharist, and you will find everything you've been searching for. Not in noise, not in novelty, but in me. Let this be your secret weapon, your hidden strength, your daily miracle. For in the end, it is not the clever who triumph. It is the consumed, and I long to consume you with love. You have seen my heart. You have touched my mercy. Now you must carry it. The time of silence becomes the seed of mission. The moment of adoration becomes the beginning of transformation, not only within you, but through you. My love is not meant to be hoarded. It is fire, and fire spreads. My child, Fatima is not merely something to reflect on. It is something to become. A living echo, a radiant witness, a lamp on a hill. You may wonder how. You may look at your life and see only ordinariness. But do you not know that I work in bread and wine, in silence and whisper? That I chose a manger, not a palace? That I walked with fishermen and dined with sinners? You do not need to be spectacular. You only need to be mine. It is not your greatness that changes the world. It is your surrender. It is your yes. That same yes that turned a peasant girl into the mother of God. That same yes I ask of you. The message of Fatima was not for a moment, it was for a century and beyond. It was not only for Portugal, it is for every corner of the earth. It is not only for saints, but for the broken, the hidden, the ordinary. Yes, it speaks of conversion. Yes, it speaks of penance. But above all, it speaks of love. My mother came to remind you. You are loved, and love demands a response. Not just feelings, but choices. Not just rituals, but relationships. Not just prayers, but presence. You want to change the world? Begin with your heart. Let it be pierced by the love that bled for you. Let it be broken open like the host to feed those around you. Look at your family, your workplace, your friends. These are your Nazareth, your Cana, your Calvary. Do not wait for the stage. Begin in the hidden, the humble, the small. This is where heaven begins. Every smile you offer with love. Every burden you carry in silence. Every prayer you whisper when no one sees. These are not wasted. These are powerful. These shake the gates of hell. You do not see it now, but one day you will. One day the veil will lift, and you will see how your yes echoed through eternity. This is what it means to live, Fatima. You are called not just to believe, but to become. To become a bridge of mercy, a vessel of peace, a light in the darkness. The world needs saints, not perfect people, but people consumed by grace. People who burn with compassion. People who forgive quickly, love fiercely, pray constantly, not because they are strong, but because they have met me. Your workplace may be cold. Your school may mock. Your family may not understand. But remember, I am with you. I walk beside you. I go before you. I have already overcome the world. And in you, I will overcome it again. But you must begin. You must take that first step of love. That first yes of trust. That quiet decision to live differently. Fatima calls you to a life that looks foolish to the world but is wise in heaven. A life where the rosary is your sword, the Eucharist your fuel, the cross your glory. Do not be afraid to be different. Be afraid of being lukewarm. The world is not transformed by comfort. It is transformed by courage. And courage is born from communion with me. My child, I have placed you exactly where you are for a reason. Your neighborhood, your city, your timeline, none of it is by accident. I have a mission for you that no one else can fulfill. I want to love the world through you, through your words, through your touch, through your kindness. You may never see the ripple effect, but heaven does. Every yes creates waves. And when you feel tired, when the world presses in, remember, you are not alone. You are part of a movement, a remnant, a communion of hearts burning with the same fire, the same message, the same hope. Fatima did not end in 1917, continues in you. You are the continuation of that miracle, not by seeing visions but by living love. The Immaculate Heart is not a symbol. It is a way of life, a way of loving, a way of surrendering all for the sake of the kingdom. My mother calls you not to admire her, but to imitate her. Her fiat must become yours. Her purity must be your pursuit. Her courage your anthem. Her trust your anchor. And when you fail I will lift you. I will never stop lifting you, because you are not doing this alone. The angels walk with you. The saints intercede for you. The Spirit empowers you. And I, the Lamb who was slain, dwell within you. What can the world offer that compares to this? Why settle for comfort when you are called to glory? So rise, wake up from spiritual sleep. Shake off the dust of mediocrity. Let the fire of Fatima consume your heart. Let the light of my presence shine through you so brightly that even in your weakness, others will see me. And when you feel too small, too broken, too late, remember the 3 children. Remember the manger. Remember the cross. This is your time. This is your call. Fatima is not over. It is only beginning. Do you realize what happens when you pray the rosary? Heaven listens. Hell trembles. Angels surround you. Grace descends. Every bead is a step deeper into my heart. Every Hail Mary is a kiss on the wounds of my son. Every mystery is a window into eternity. And yet, the rosary is so small, so simple, so easily overlooked. Just like Bethlehem, just like Nazareth, just like Calvary. You must understand, this is not just prayer. It is a weapon. My mother placed it in your hands because she knows the battle. She sees what you cannot see. She hears what the world ignores. And she intercedes, ceaselessly, powerfully, maternally. The rosary is not outdated. It is urgent. It is relevant. It is a lifeline in the flood of modern confusion. When you pray the rosary, you are not just remembering events of the past. You are entering into them. You are standing at the Annunciation with Gabriel. You are walking with Mary to Elizabeth. You are kneeling in the Garden of Gethsemane. You are at the foot of the cross, and you are rejoicing in the resurrection. These are not just stories. They are realities, mysteries, truths alive in you. Too often, the world makes prayer a last resort, a background noise, polite gesture, but I am calling you to make it your heartbeat, your first instinct, your constant breath. I do not want part of your day. I want to live it with you. When you drive, when you wait, when you wash dishes, when you walk, pray. Invite me in. Let me be your companion. And when your mind is distracted, when your heart is heavy, pray anyway. Because prayer is not about how you feel. It is about who I am. And I never change. I never leave. I never stop listening. Even your weakest whisper, when said in faith, shakes eternity. Fatima reminds you, prayer is what preserves the world. Prayer is what converts hearts. Prayer is what releases mercy. My mother asked you to pray the rosary every day, not as a burden, but as a bridge, between heaven and earth, between you and me, between despair and hope, between sin and grace. She knows what she's asking, and she knows what is at stake. You may not feel powerful when you pray, but make no mistake, you are engaging in battle. Every Our Father is a declaration of surrender. Every Hail Mary is a cry of trust. Every Glory Be is a song of victory, and all of heaven joins in. Your prayer becomes a choir, a flame, a fortress. My children, do not say the rosary with your lips alone. Say it with your life. Let each mystery shape your choices. Let each virtue inspire your actions. When you meditate on my agony, offer your own suffering. When you contemplate my resurrection, rise from your doubt. Let the rosary be your rhythm, your renewal, your refuge. This world needs warriors, not with swords, but with sacrifice. Not with noise, but with prayer. Your room can become a battlefield. Your car, a chapel. Your workplace, an altar. If you let me dwell in your heart, everything becomes holy ground. Do not be discouraged by the noise around you. Do not be distracted by the emptiness of entertainment. The world promises comfort, but delivers chaos. I offer you peace, but it begins with prayer. It is sustained by silence. It grows in surrender. So hold your rosary as you would hold my hand. Tight, trusting, tender. Let it lead you, bead by bead, back to the heart that loves you more than words can say. Let it teach you patience, faith, humility, and let it remind you that my mother walks with you, always, guiding, protecting, teaching, even when you feel unworthy, even when your past haunts you, even when your future scares you. She is there, whispering heaven's language into your soul, reminding you of your dignity, your destiny, your call. Because the rosary is not magic, it is relationship. It is not a charm. It is a chain of love, binding you to me, mystery by mystery, step by step. It is how I speak to those who listen. It is how I reach the depths of your wounds and flood them with light. You are not too busy to pray. You are too busy not to. Without prayer, your heart dries up. Your soul forgets. Your vision blurs. But with prayer, especially the rosary, you remember who you are, whose you are, where you are going. This is why my mother insisted. Not because she needed you to recite words, but because she wanted you to enter into the Word made flesh, to wrap yourself in the gospel, to carry it inside you like she did, to become living tabernacles in a world starving for me. Pray, my child, even when you don't feel it, especially then. Pray with love, pray with tears, pray with perseverance, and watch what I will do, not only in you, but through you, one rosary at a time. I am not calling you to isolation. I am calling you to communion. My church is not a building. It is a body, living, breathing, wounded, glorious, and you are not on the sidelines. You are part of this body. You are necessary. The light of Fatima was never meant to be trapped in a moment. It was meant to ignite generations, to shine through you, to be multiplied through your witness. The heart of my mother beats in rhythm with the church. Her call is the echo of my own. When she said, "Do whatever he tells you," she was speaking to you, to every generation, to every soul. Her messages at Fatima are not relics of a distant past. They are blueprints for renewal. Warnings, yes, but also invitations. Urgent, gentle, clear. You must understand, unity is not uniformity. You are not asked to be the same as everyone else. You are asked to be faithful, to be authentic, to be holy, in your way, in your family, in your workplace, in your calling. When you live this out, you are part of something much larger. You are a flame in the great fire of love that is my church. But there is a tension you must face. The world pulls at you, tries to divide you. It whispers compromise. It encourages comfort. But the gospel is not comfortable. The cross is not convenient, and Fatima is not optional. It is the cry of heaven for your cooperation, for your courage, for your yes. The unity I desire is not surface-level agreement. It is the deep intertwining of hearts surrendered to me. It is the church breathing with one soul, one spirit. When you forgive, you heal this body. When you serve, you strengthen it. When you proclaim truth, you defend it. And when you love, even when it's hard, you glorify it. This is the moment to rise, not in pride, but in humility, not to conquer, but to convert, not to impose, but to inspire. The church needs saints, not perfect people, but passionate ones, people who burn with purpose, people who echo the fiat of my mother with their entire life, people who see the Eucharist not as ritual, but as relationship, as power, as presence. And that unity begins within you. Reconciliation is not only between nations, it is between neighbors, between spouses, between siblings, between friends. Do not wait for others to move first. Be the bridge. Be the first to love, the first to listen, the first to heal. My mother weeps not only for sin, but for division, for coldness, for apathy. She calls you to a warmth that the world cannot imitate. A charity that has no hidden agenda. A unity built not on strategy, but on sacrifice, on shared tears, on mutual surrender to my will. Do not look to the world for confirmation of truth. Truth is not measured by popularity. It is measured by fidelity. And I have not changed. My gospel has not changed. Fatima is not a side note. It is a spotlight, shining on the urgent need for repentance, for renewal, for radical love. I am not asking you to save the church. I already have. I am asking you to be church, to live in such a way that people encounter me when they encounter you. Let your friendships preach the gospel. Let your work reflect my integrity. Let your suffering become intercession. Let your joy become invitation. You are not too young, not too old, not too broken. My spirit moves in weakness. My glory shines through surrender. And my church comes alive when each member discovers their call and lives it boldly. Not just on Sundays, not just in safe spaces, but everywhere, always. So stand with my mother. Let her lead you into deeper unity. Not unity for unity's sake, but unity rooted in truth. In Tradition. In transformation. Let Fatima be the lens through which you see this generation's mission. Let it teach you to hope again, to believe again, to act again. Do not be afraid of being misunderstood. The prophets were misunderstood. The apostles were ridiculed. The saints were rejected. But they endured, because they knew who they were, and whose they were. They knew that my promise was greater than public opinion. You are not alone. My spirit is in you. My angels surround you. My church walks with you. And my mother never stops praying for you. So go. Be light. Be fire. Be love. And watch what I will do through a heart that is completely mine.
Thank you for joining us on this pilgrimage through Fatima's final warning and the triumph of the Immaculate Heart. If this message stirred something within you, please hit like. Share to bring hope to others. And don't forget to subscribe to Jesus Saves so you never miss an invitation from heaven. Leave a comment below. How will you answer Mary's call today? May Our Lady of Fatima guide your steps, and may the peace of Christ dwell richly in your heart until we meet again. God bless you.